Hello. So my name is Daniel Hayes, or DJ, or Daniel Joseph Hayes. I'm the founder of Touch&Play. And today I was going to share a tiny bit. I often get the question of like, what is it that you guys do? What are you teaching? What is this work about? And one of the terms that we use is that Touch&Play is an experimental space. And it's kind of a play of words of experimental and experiential. I think the phrase stems from a deep belief that life itself is going to be the teaching. There's not an outcome that we're trying to get to. So it's not a penetrative space as such of we're going from A to B, and let's see how fast and efficient we can learn this material. It's rather an enveloping space which is holding a container where people can experiment and experience, with the belief that what is learning or what is good for one person isn't necessarily the same for another person. So there is an intent to provide a space where everyone can find their own path. And of course, to do that, there gets to be a very strong foundation, a strong holding of the space so that can happen collectively, and that growth can happen collectively and individually. So that is why we speak of experiential learning. Hello. So my name is Daniel Hayes, or DJ, or Daniel Joseph Hayes. I'm the founder of Touch&Play. And today I was going to share a tiny bit. I often get the question of like, what is it that you guys do? What are you teaching? What is this work about? And one of the terms that we use is that Touch&Play is an experimental space. And it's kind of a play of words of experimental and experiential. I think the phrase stems from a deep belief that life itself is going to be the teaching. There's not an outcome that we're trying to get to. So it's not a penetrative space as such of we're going from A to B, and let's see how fast and efficient we can learn this material. It's rather an enveloping space which is holding a container where people can experiment and experience, with the belief that what is learning or what is good for one person isn't necessarily the same for another person. So there is an intent to provide a space where everyone can find their own path. And of course, to do that, there gets to be a very strong foundation, a strong holding of the space so that can happen collectively, and that growth can happen collectively and individually. So that is why we speak of experiential learning. I wanted to share a little bit around a concept that we use in the Touch&Play work, in the culture that we're trying to build. And so when we started in 2010, 15 years ago, we were speaking about being a sex-positive event. And at the moment, we're not using that term anymore. I think it comes from the fact 15 years ago, what we were doing, I think, was further removed from the norm. Sex-positive work was more rare. There wasn't as much out there. I think somehow in the last decade and a half, society has moved towards us with what is normal, what is allowed, and what's cool. With that, there's been an explosion of sexy events, neo-tantra stuff, a lot of it. Also kink. I mean, there are Netflix shows around kink, right? That wasn't happening 15 years ago. And with that, we've noticed that the term from sex positive of this idea of sexuality being a positive force in nature, which is something, or in society, which is something that we're completely agree with, it's become kind of the denominator for this is a sex event. Like, you're coming here to explore sexuality and to be sexual. And that was never our intent. Touch and Play from the beginning was saying, what happens if we invite sexuality into our dances, into our connections, rather than keeping them out? We never said, let's focus on sexuality. Let's all try to do that. And at a certain point, there was a feeling of like actually using the term sex positive is starting to focus people in a direction that isn't actually what we're wanting. We're trying to create something that's more holistic, that's welcoming of different aspects of humanity, the relational body in its full glory. So anger, sadness, play, dance, and yes, sexuality, kink are also welcome. So we've started talking about being a post-positive space. And I don't know where the term actually came from. Maybe it's like a wink at the post-porn movement, at also wanting to be more inclusive, less patriarchal, which is funny because I started it. Yeah, I think the idea is like, yes, we're sexy, and no, this isn't about sex. So post-positive. Some people like it, some people don't. I think it's an interesting way of pointing at something. So there you go. Share another concept which is quite central, I think, to the beliefs of the culture we're creating, the work that we're doing out in the world. And so I think most of you will probably know the term resilience. The definition of resilience that I very much appreciate is the ability of an object to regain its shape after impact. So if you take a sponge and you squish it, the sponge goes back to the same shape after having been squished. The term we use for the work is prosilience. And it's the idea that we as humans, we actually have the capacity that rather after the impact of regaining our shape, we have the opportunity to actually grow bigger, to grow stronger. So it's the concept of post-traumatic growth, which can happen under certain circumstances. One being a lot of care and community holding processes. There's a joke that touch and play is trigger and process. So in the culture that we're building, there's a lot of care, a lot of investment in the structures of how to hold processes for people that are diving in. And the prosilience, I think it's something that is in our society is super needed. I think there's a tendency of coddling the people, specifically in the US, due to a different legal system than, for example, in Europe. There is a huge threat that is there, or imagined threat of what all can go wrong, and thus the idea we need to protect people from anything happening to them that might feel uncomfortable. And this leads to children not being exposed to germs, and thus their immune system not being impacted, and thus not being able to grow strong. It's like, if you don't work out your muscles, if you're not impacting your muscles, how are you going to build up muscle mass? You don't. And it's the same with emotions. If you're not practicing being on an edge of how much you can hold, then that container is only going to get smaller. So the spaces that we create are actually working with the edges so that we can grow into them. And that's one of the most beautiful things for me is when I'm sharing this work, I can literally see people walking in on day one and then walking out a week later, and they've grown 10 centimeters into themselves because of that, because they've been able to go into these spaces and process and grow from them. So hence prosilience.